So just for a second before we jump into the episode. So, okay, how many years for you, Emily, have you been a fan?
I mean, since like middle school, high school.
Okay, so forever. You grew up with Taylor Swift.
Yes.
What? And then Annalise, you mentioned to me yesterday, but say it again on air. How
Almost
much for
20,
you?
20 years right now, which is funny. Like probably similar to Emily. I think we're similar age.
Hmm.
2006 was my first concert. She opened for Brad Paisley. And I've been to, I think, 8 concerts and got to go to the Eras tour twice. So I dabble, you know.
You dabble. You just dabble. So for me, I mean, I've come on this train late, like really late. I mean, my middle girls kind of started getting into the Eras tour. My 10-year-old, my 8-year-old, because they were hearing about it at school and all that. So I started listening to her then, but not like I didn't dissect stuff. Just really. I mean, I enjoyed a few of her songs, and we'll get into that. But um, then it was this album for me. Like it was Eldest Daughter, number one. Like when I listened through the album and I listened to that song, I was like, just with my therapist eyes now, I was like, man, this lady is deep. So yeah, I've listened through this album an obsessive amount of times over the last week, but so have my girls. So it's been really fun. We've enjoyed it. And now I think maybe I'm a Swiftie. So, I mean, if I can I have joined late? Is it okay?
Yeah,
All
anytime.
right.
That's the beauty of it. Anytime.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know if you guys know this about me, but undergrad, I was an English lit major.
Mhm.
My undergraduate degree is in English lit, and my minor was in psychology, and then my graduate degree. But I remember my exit interview with one of my English professors was like, "Why did you choose this? Like, you know, it's not a degree that is really going to just provide a job for you right away. Like if you want to teach, if you want to do something else, you have to get further education. So why did you pick this?" And the answer is really simple because when you really study literature, you really get to understand humanity on a deeper level. And so for me, it was a perfect entryway into the field of psychology and to what I do now, um, because of that. And so when I heard this album, and I will tell you, I had one professor who told me that musicians like didn't count. And that has hit me in like, it was a punch in my face then. And it's a punch in my face now. Like, I'm like, no way, they count. They are artists and poets, especially her. And so this is still my favorite from, where are we at? I graduated college in 2003. So it's like over, 20 some years ago here. This was my favorite class. This was Romanticism, English Romantic writers. And my professor I had for this was Dr. Romaine. He's passed on now, but we would go into his class with a poem. We didn't even have internet really the last time I was in school. So anyway, we would come in with our book and and he would sit down and we would break these poems down line by line. And I'm getting that's this memory's coming up for me in this last week because I feel like that's what we've been able to do with this album is like go in line by line and look deeply at the themes and all of this stuff. And so for you guys listening, I'm on that rabbit trail because in my mind, this is a picture of the three of us, me, Emily, and Annalise, with our therapist hats on. We're sitting in an English lit class right now. We're students of Professor Taylor Swift, and we're going to break this down. She is our English professor. And we're going to break this thing down. So that's the picture that I have in my mind. So what I want to do is, I got one more rabbit trail, and then I swear it's the last one, maybe. I did a parenting class on Friday night, and it was great. Loved it. Um, the next day, I'm reflecting back on it, and You know, the part of the night that just does I don't like, that feels unlike me is the Q&A time at the end. Like, when you're, like, put on the spot to answer specific questions that pertain to somebody's life, you know, it's so, like, solution focused and, like, right now, you know what I mean? And so the next day, I'm like, "Gosh, why was that so uncomfortable?" Like, I was just trying to be curious about that part of myself that felt so uneasy, like, during that time. And, of course, I'm listening to another, podcast, A Good Hang with Amy Poehler is my weekend podcast. I love it so much. And she was talking to Kristen Wiig, I think in the last episode. And one of the things Kristen Wiig said, she was like, "You know what people tell me?" She was like, "I've learned about myself is people will put me on the spot at dinner and they'll be like, 'Be funny,' you know, 'Tell a funny joke.'" And then she's like, "My husband's told me, like, that's not your time to shine." Like, you don't. And she's like, "I realize about myself that I'm like, I'm process. I'm like, I'm not, you know." And in that when I heard that, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's me as a therapist." Like, I am, let's sit down with somebody and let's unpack the puzzle in front of us. And then over time, let's figure this thing out together, you know? And I can come in with my tools and, you know, like you would be putting a puzzle together and you might be like, "Okay, well, let's look for the corner pieces or let's, you know, like I can sit with somebody and do that." But I am not like, I'm not the one to call in an emergency situation. Like, I'm going to tell you that right now. But if you want to like process something over weeks and months, you know, deeply, like that's more, I think, my speed. And I think that's more what therapy is. And so I think that is what lines up. I'm bringing all this back together now to say, like, this, and I've got all the lyrics printed out here, but we've got like a great puzzle here, you know? And I think that is what has just really, fired me up to listen through it as many times as I have and, like, nerd out with, like, so many people who are doing the same thing, um, because it's fun, you know? It that part of me, like, that therapist part of me that, like, has always kinda been there is excited by this album. Um, alright, that was a really long intro. So, do you guys have anything to add to that before we jump into just kind of major themes that we're gonna drop these songs into?
Yeah, well, first I would say you may already know this, Jessie, but that's kind of her whole thing that I'm your English teacher, right? Like when she announced that they were getting married, she and Travis, she was like, "Your English teacher and your coach are getting married," right? So, like, how that's why I thought originally you were like, "Let's do it like this." And then, no, it's your love of English. Oh, so that's perfect.
You guys are gonna have to catch me up on all this, you know?
I love it.
I'll
I
get there.
love it. Well, and also I was just thinking too, when you're explaining like our work as therapists, like people are layered, right? It's not just a here's one piece, let's figure out all the puzzle. Like people are layered. And I think the reason why she sometimes gets a lot of flack in this album has gotten, a lot of people love it, a lot of people hate it. But the criticisms I think have come from people saying that she's sort of just a one note, like, oh, this is not deep. The lyrics aren't deep, and it's about her just like being in love, and like we want something more from her. And I think it's a misunderstanding of the fact that she is
Mm,
layered. This album is very layered. And it's about, yes, she can be vulnerable and be in love and have these like lyrics that are fun to sing along to, but she's not just that. So I just think it's interesting that you bring that up of like, that's sort of the work that we want to do here with the album as a puzzle, because I really think that that's what she's trying to do and put out there that I think a lot of people are misunderstanding.
yeah, so good. You got anything, E? Emily? E? I might just start
Um,
calling you E. That just flowed right out of me.
yeah, I love that. Um, when you were saying kind of relating to the puzzle pieces, and kind of like when I listen to the album and you hear certain lyrics and you're like, "Ooh, that's so good," or that hits you in a certain way, um, it makes me think of like I have those moments in sessions with clients where it's almost like a lyric where you're just like, ooh,
Mm.
like we could unpack this so much. Um, or it speaks to so many things. And sometimes it's like, we come back to it multiple sessions to kind of keep finding the layers in it. So when you made that point, that's where I went with that.
Mhm. Yeah. And I guess we should say, like, if people are listening to this and they're like, "Okay, let's unpack my puzzle," like, go to the website and schedule a consult, Like, let's do it. Okay. So, the funny thing, the cat has taken my highlighter and my pencil off the table, so give me 1 second.
So fitting. So fitting for this
Yes,
podcast.
Okay.
I was gonna say.
All right. So what do we think are like some major themes that we're looking at here that kind of go across the whole album?
I think definitely, parts, as we think about, like, she has a lot of different parts, a lot of different roles, and even within specific songs, like, we talked about this with the Eldest Daughter song a little bit, but she is the protector part, but she's also the exile. She's also got herself in the song, her core self, whereas, like, with father figure, she's both the father figure and the person being, mentored. And I think with that, there's a lot of, like, vulnerability as a theme. I think there's a lot of, like, change of, like, old and new, and she says that when she talks a little bit about the lyrics of, like, things used to be this way, now they're this way, but sort of, like, meeting her parts in both the old and new.
Mhm. Okay, so like a movement from like emotional insecurity to emotional security um would be some of what I'm hearing there. And then within that maybe like a sub of old new. Okay. What do you see, Emily? And I think we're going to get more as we go through this, so we'll add to the big buckets.
Kind of similar. I had resiliency. Um, I feel like this comes across when we talk about like Opalite. Um, and I think relating it back, like you said, of like things that I had to grow from when I was younger, that have made me into the person that I am now. So kind of similar to that, like growth and healing, I feel like are a big
Mhm.
part of this album. And then kind of with the parts, like I had, kind of how she has like this public versus private image, which I think a lot of people can relate to, where we have to wear different hats. And how a lot of times, or I see this with like kids and teens, where it's feeling like we can't be vulnerable enough for people to see like our true self. Um, and so that kind of comes across, I feel like, when we come to the end of the album on like Showgirl and talking
Mm.
about the different personas that go on there.
Mhm. Okay. So we kind of have like this major theme of like moving from types of insecurity to types of security, maybe showing up as more resilient, maybe a contrast in that throughout public versus private. I think there's a line that goes through it. I mean, it's called Life of a Showgirl, but just that public, private, that like uh, the price of it all, you know? Um, okay. All right. You ready to jump in? Because I think we're going to get a lot more fluffed out of this as we go through. Okay. So let's just start at the top of the album. So, Fate of Ophelia. We know Ophelia was a character in Hamlet, and she loved Hamlet, and she was heartbroken over like I guess I don't remember all of Hamlet. My mom's going to be upset about this. My mom was a high school English teacher. Sorry, mom, right off the jump.
And she drowned, right? Ophelia drowned. Wasn't that her fate?
Yeah, and it's ambiguous in the play, like, it's almost maybe possibly was we don't know if it was suicide or not. It's not stated, um, but we know she was really emotionally afflicted because of just all of the pain that she'd gone through, and she did have a genuine love for Hamlet, and so
I feel like the first line that stood out to me was, "I might have drowned in the melancholy."
mm, mm,
Um, and I was really thinking about how a lot of times, like, when I'm talking with clients about depression and kind of that feeling, how it kind of overtakes. And like if we think of the image of her in the water, it's almost like how she's fully engulfed, by the water at the end. Um, and how sadness can, I think, sometimes feel like that.
mhm,
Um, I also saw something somewhere and I thought this was interesting. Um, because the song is kind of talking about how she is prevented of having this fate.
mhm,
Um, and kind of instead of feeling like drowning in the water, it's kind of learning how to float.
mm,
Um, so, when we're dealing with moments of sadness or depression, learning how to kind of float through it instead of feeling like we're drowning in it.
mhm.
That makes sense.
Totally, and that reminds me of another theme that I thought of, while I was on my walk, which is basically this I we get such a full spectrum of emotion through this whole album, and so it's really this idea of, like, all parts are welcome, you know, through the whole album. So it's not like, and we'll get into some of this a little bit more, but it's not like the joyful life is like, um, only this and not like we don't ever have to deal with anything that we would say is, quote, "negative," like, even her song choice in the way that she lays things out musically, like, there are some ones that are really boppy on here, but there are also, like, you know, different melodies and different genres of music that she's pulled into this, and I think that's a picture of just, like, life is all of it, and it's okay that it's all of it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's that resiliency piece, Emily, that you were saying, what you're saying, that buoyancy of, like, life is all of it, you know?
Yeah, I love that, Emily. And even just sort of like the way that she does that album cover where she's in the bathtub and she's like sitting there and it's like that's the picture of like the fate was like almost drowning, but that didn't happen. But there's this like settledness of like, yeah, but life is also the bathtub. Like it's also the melancholy. Like all parts are welcome here. And she even like talks about how she kind of combines like blending the old and new in this song of like the modern, like keep it 100, like modern language with the Ophelia Shakespeare. And so it's this picture of different eras of her life, different parts of herself that she's blending that are welcome, like you said, together, Jesse.
Mhm, mhm. Um, alright, I'm just rolling through these lyrics. Let's if there's anything else we wanna pick out from this one, um, and I feel as we our brains are gonna we're gonna hyperlink back and forth, we're gonna be reminded of things. I mean, thinking of it in parts language, like the on the surface, the line, if you'd never come for me, we think that might be about Travis, but if we go, like, internal IFS lens through the whole album, what that could be like that, awakening that she's having and like that, like, yeah, I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's not it's not just it's not him, it's not just this man that's saving her, it's not just this romantic connection, it's also the place in her life where she is, and I think she hints at that when she talks about the eldest daughter of a nobleman, we already get that foreshadowing to the eldest daughter song, and so she's kind of creating this picture of, like, this is how I used to be, but now this is where I am, and I love the line, "You dug me out of my grave and saved my heart from the fate." Like, we see this almost like resurrection language, if I could say
Mhm,
so.
mhm.
So there's just a lot of layers to it.
Okay, so good. Alright, let's put a pin in that one unless you guys have more for that one. Is there one you want to hyperlink to, or do you want to go in order?
Either.
Nothing's coming up? Okay, we'll just go in order. Elizabeth Taylor, I've been puzzled on.
Yeah, I agree. This is the one I connect to the least. I don't know why.
I know. Me too. I mean, the only thing that comes up for me is that this is part of that theme of like, you know, the show business part of this is like really difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Showgirl, like, example of, like, the public versus private. So
Yeah.
the part of this song that I think hits for me is "You're only as hot as your last hit, baby." Like, that pressure, that competition too that you kind of have said, Jessie, about the last Showgirl piece of, like, the pressure of, like, you've gotta stay on top. You've gotta be a showgirl that makes these hits.
Which I think is a contrast to what really drives her, because I actually don't think she's like striving. I think that, and I connect with this as somebody who feels creative too. Like when I'm like calm, that's when I'm the most creative. That's when like the ideas are like, and I think she's so overflowingly creative, like no one we've really ever seen, you know, that I think this is a reality in the world that maybe she's pointing out, you know, because I think one of the things that reminds when I linked back to like these romantic writers and these poets, it's a commentary on like society and social themes. And she is constantly doing that, you know? And so this is one of the like social like things, you know, like you're only as hot as your last hit, which hyperlinks me over to canceled like so quickly, you know. Um, but I don't think she's driven by that superficial thing. I think she's there's like a deeper like well of her that, you know, maybe this is almost like what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, it'll come to me in a second. It's almost a play, maybe, for her a little bit on this. What does it mean, be number one, but I never had two? What does that mean? Okay. I don't
I was thinking about
understand that
that
line.
too. I was like, it means something important, but I'm not picking up. I don't know if she's meaning like two as in like a partner, like the two of them. Like
Mm,
I've had these number one hits, like I'm number one in everything, but I've like haven't had this like life partner.
maybe. Yes. Because the very next line is, I can't have fun if I can't have you. One of my favorite lines in here is, be my NY when Hollywood hates me. I think that's just such a picture of like safe place versus jungle, you know? And that makes me think of like, you know, Eldest Daughter, like that line to the younger sibling of like, you grew up in the wild, but now you're home. Like there's this contrast of like, maybe that's another theme that we see is like this contrast of like safety and wilderness, you know? I think there's also a theme of surface and deeper meaning. She's always like she's the queen of Easter eggs, as we know. And so like what she says and what she shows on the surface, that's what I love about this is there's always like something else I think she's trying to communicate.
Which is why I think people love her and connect with her because what you were saying, Jessie, about like she's not driven just by being the hottest hit, putting out music that's gonna sell. I mean, I think there maybe is a part of her that is like very achievement oriented and that she really loves the fact that she owns her music now, like, she talks about that, like, that is a
Yeah.
big core of her identity is the achievements that she has that she's proud of, but I think the reason why we're all still here after 20 years is because she is deeper and is talking about the things that are layered and honest, and I think it's just so interesting to me, all the feedback this album has gotten, and I thought the same thing when I first listened to it, the feedback was, "Oh, is she just trying to make money and sell these bops?" But as we're sitting here talking about it, we're like, no, this is layered. This is much deeper. It's what she's always done.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to put Elizabeth Taylor to the left and then maybe more of Elizabeth Taylor will speak to us as we go. Okay, so the next one's Opalite, which you mentioned earlier, Emily. This is one of my favorite ones on the album too. So what comes up for you guys with Opalite?
I wrote down like 3 different ones that stood out to me. Um, the first one being you were dancing through the lightning strikes, sleepless in the onyx night, but now the sky is opalite. Um, so the dancing through the lightning strike, I think is, again, kind of that feeling where like in life sometimes we feel like we're having to dodge like all of this like negativity or bad things that keep happening, or it just feels like a lightning strike and that it just like keeps raining down type of a thing. Um, but you have to kind of keep dancing through it. Um,
Mhm.
and then I love um like the sleepless and then onyx night, like that vivid imagery of onyx is like this dark black.
Mhm.
Um, and like sleeplessness makes me think of like anxiety, like when we're up at night thinking about all of these things that are really bothering us.
Mhm.
And then kind of this resiliency and transformation. So going from onyx to opalite. Opalite is really light colors, um, whites and blues and pinks. Um, and I just love that
Mm.
using those colors, which like I use a lot in therapy with kids of like relating colors to feelings. And so though that kind
Mm.
of stood out for me.
Mhm. And then if we think about it in parts language, like how when we have so many exiled parts of ourselves, like you don't have that full spectrum of color, you know? Um, that's beautiful. Yeah. And also thinking about what you said about dancing through the lightning strikes, like that choice of words there, because if you think about if I'm standing in my backyard and there are lightning strikes hitting everywhere, what emotions are coming up to me? But she chooses the word, I'm dancing through this field of lightning strikes. There's a playfulness to like that, and that hyperlinks me over to Life of a Showgirl where she like gets this, where this lady's like, "Oh, you're too soft to be a showgirl," and then she's like, "Oh, let me take all these pearls of wisdom, put them around my neck, tell me I can't do something." So it's like this choice of that competitive part of her that's like, "Yeah, there's lightning strikes. We're gonna dance through them," you know? Um, that's
Yeah,
good.
it makes me think too of like the part of her that is resilient, like you said, Emily, of like she's dancing through the lightning strikes. It reminds me of the song I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. But
Mm,
that song feels a little bit more like everything's messed up around me. I have to keep going. I don't have an option. I'm in survival mode because I'm on this Eras tour, right?
mhm.
Versus this dancing through the lightning strikes of it's still the protector, but she's honoring it in a way that feels like it is less in survival mode. It has more safety to help.
Yeah, that's so good. So good. Okay. Annalise, maybe you can speak to this, but she says, "My mama told me." Like, I'm thinking about that wise. Do you think that could be like the wise or the core self, like the wise part of her? We have a lot of advice through this album that I think is interesting.
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to scroll to the part where it says my mama told me. Yeah, my mama told me. Right.
It's the
Yeah.
verse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and she
the chord.
talks about too, in like the movie, she talked about how opalite is one of her and her mom's things. Like they love that stone. And so I do think her mom kind of represents a wise self for her. So even that light color of opalite also representing her mom and her wise self, I think is speaking to that part of her that's
Mhm.
protecting her, but in a resilient way, not just in a survival mode way.
Yeah. It's so good too because the song style, like the music style is kind of that, um, it's got that like, uh it's like that '50s bop to me, you know? And even there's this part in this song where they stack those harmonies like that 50 just like keep and, um, I just think that's a play on dancing through the lightning strikes too. you know, like that attitude of like, all right, let's go. You know, it's that like my mom said it's all right, you know? Um, so
Think of that. That's so smart. Cause yeah, she's stacking and she's definitely doing that. I was thinking about this yesterday. Jesse and I were talking about an eldest daughter. Jesse brought up the fact that she adds harmony, right? But I was thinking about this because I was listening to her talk about the father figure song, which I know we're gonna talk about later. And she's like, I want you to hear the key change. And so she's definitely doing music is happening in an important way in these songs, and I didn't even think about that. It's like she's stacking it in Opalite of like, "There's more, but here's why we're okay, and here's more, and here's why we're resilient."
right.
There's a lyric in it, and it says, "Failure brings you freedom."
Mm,
Um, and so I feel like this is really hinting at like having a growth mindset of like, and I talk about this a lot with clients of, yeah, looking at failure as something other than failure. Like looking at it as, I tell clients a lot, like a learning opportunity, or a learning moment. Um,
mhm,
but yeah, I feel like there's a lot to this. I think also, um, of like when you have a failure, that kind of that rock bottom moment. Um, it's kind of like that saying of you can only go up from there at some point. Um, and that it kind of releases, I think, some of that fear that comes with failure at some point, of like this happened or there's a conclusion to this. Um, so now I can kind of release it and let it go, hopefully.
mhm. That's so good. I'm trying to find it to underline it. There's so much of those little, like, wisdom drops that she does, like, through this whole album. That is definitely that wise part of herself, like,
Mhm.
speaking probably to other parts of herself too. Um,
Absolutely.
where is that? Is that in the bridge?
Yeah.
I hear it
Yeah, at the end.
in my head.
It's in a section. This is just a storm inside a teacup.
Oh gosh, don't you love that line?
Yeah.
And then when she says,
Um,
"They're here with me, my love," like, there's singing
Oh,
to that.
yeah.
yes. And then right after that is where that builds to that yeah, that's that 50s thing I was talking about. The thing also in that part that stuck out to me is, sometimes how we're surprised by when we start feeling better. Like, you know, I wrote a blog about this one time about like, how do I know therapy's working? Or how do I know like sometimes like we're surprised and we just like have a day when and then we look back on that day and we're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even, you know? And there's this line she has in this song that I love, and it says, what a simple thought, you're starving till you're not. And it's like almost this surprise of health of like, whoa, I feel better. You know? That struck me too. Okay. There's so much in this one, Emily. I agree. Don't we try to love love like we
Yeah.
chase it, you know? Yeah. Okay. That's a really good one. That's one of my favorite ones on the album. Are we ready to slide to the next one? Okay. I love this song. The next one, Father Figure. Um, I love it so much. And I love how she does like different like genres of music to also like tell a story. She does it with Canceled, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but it's so Canceled is so gothic, you know, and it's gothic because people vilify those who think differently than them. And so she just plays right into that in that. And this one has such a it's got a Godfather vibe to it to me, you know? And she even uses that, like, sleeping with the fishes, like, thing at the end. Now, I like in my mind I'm not a Swiftie, I don't know the whole story, but the narrative I like when I'm thinking of this song is that this is the first part of it is the person who tried to hold all the rights to her songs, and then the second part of it is, like, when she got them back, you know? Um, So what comes up for you guys? Is that what you're seeing in this song as true Swifties, or is there something else you're seeing?
Yeah, that's what I got from it. I think it's talking about this younger self or part of herself when she's first coming up in the business, and you have these adults that you're looking up to for guidance. And I think when we're younger, like it's easy to kind of be naive. So feeling like I can trust this person. Um, and then again, the pain that can come when that flips or this person breaks your trust. Um, and then, in the end of it, her part of herself that is really resilient coming out of like you created this unhappiness for me, but I was actually able to come out on top. Um, I was able to stick through it and get to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
What do you see, Annalie?
I completely agree. Like, I think it's got to be about Scooter Braun, the guy that
Mhm.
she's singing about, and then the resilience, like you said, Emily. That theme is here again, and these like parts of her that are coming out of like she has this resilient part where she also can rise above that and sort of dictate. And I also think there are a lot of people in her life that she has sort of tried to mentor and bring on. Like Sabrina Carpenter is one of them. Like she would bring her on opening for the Eras tour, and now she's huge. And there have been some interesting things like with that. And so I think it is this like part of her that can play both sides of it. And I think this is where we see a lot of her strength in this album too.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, you know, to me, this song comes off as just that competitive, again, like, think me small. Go ahead, you know? Um, and then she flips it. And I mean, we have, which I told you, like, the whole language thing for me, like, to me, she selected language on purpose to make a point. And so, and we're going to get into this in a minute. We're going to have to talk about male appendages today. Like, it's just it's going to come up. But like, and I'm going to try not to have so many puns, and I'm going to try to be appropriate. Um, but like, I mean, I just had one. All right, sorry. Forgive me before we even get into it. Okay. But she chose this word in the chorus for a reason, because like, of like, this way that it's used in society, and so I think it's a really powerful like line in this song. So the script kind of flips on that bridge when the key change, and then she says, "I saw a change in you, my dear boy." So she's like, there's a shift in like, I was the child, you found me as a child, and now I'm the father figure and I'm calling you my dear boy, you know? Um, and then we see it's her song the rest of the time. And I love this line and how it's used as a manipulative thing at the beginning, where he manipulates her by saying like, "I'll protect your family." Where's the line about uh it's about love and profit, or love and money. um oh, this love is pure profit. Like, it's just that thing of like, yeah, you're saying you're like family to me, you're saying that you're going to protect me, but really you're taking advantage of me. um and I love how that word is used in a manipulative way at the beginning and then in its true way at the end. Like, she's got all of the rights to her albums now, and her true family, like her generations that are going to come after her, are going to like financially benefit, as they should, from her life's work. So she actually is going to protect her family, you know? And I love how it's like even whispered. There's such a powerful whisper in this song of like, I protect the family, you know? Not you. I don't need anybody to protect my family, like I do. I love the strength in this song. It really fires me up. So go ahead. What else you guys got?
Well, what's interesting is, so some of my friends and I, we did the whole thing the night before the Taylor Swift album comes out at midnight. We're texting about it, and one of them texted me. She goes, "Is this your first album release since you've become a mom?" Which is just such a funny, yeah, it is, it is. And I do think that this song was my favorite on first listen, and I think that it's almost this mom part of me that made it my favorite because there is so much strength and there's a punch in there. Like she's talking about male appendages. Like she's not playing around. There's a fierceness. And I love it because I agree with you, Jesse. I think it's yeah, she's protecting her future, her family. But also, I'm thinking as you're talking, she's protecting her parts, like her internal family that we talk about.
Ooh,
Of
gosh, thank you. Yes.
this is it's coming to a head in the album, right? This is sort of the middle-ish of the album. Next,
Mm,
we talk about her being an eldest daughter and protecting that. But before this was that vulnerability of mama said keep dancing through the lightning strikes. But this is not a sing-songy, this is light and cute and fun. This is I'm here for protection. And the family will be protected.
okay, hold on. So, in scripture that there are if you go back and you study the way, I can't remember what it's called. I wish I had my phone right here. So it's basically like a sandwich. So when in Hebrew writing,
It kind of
in a thank you. So yes. And so in normal American storytelling, it's the climax is towards the end and then we have the finish or whatever. In most ancient literature, the point of the story is in the middle of the sandwich. And so that makes me wonder about this song. Is this where we're supposed to have our focus? And even in this bridge switch of it's mm-mm, like I, pre- I don't know. That just came to me as you were talking.
Yeah, that there's the symmetry of if you folded it in half, there's this part of the album that's a little bit it's still protective, but it's a little bit more sing-songy, fun and light. There's the second half, still a little bit sing-songy, life of a showgirl, but the middle of father figure, eldest daughter, that's the meat of we're packing the punch here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like imagery, this isn't my part, but the image that came to me is it's that this is the main protector boss part of herself, almost sitting behind the desk. Like and all of these other parts are kind of in the room and it's kind of almost like a lawyer, my my job is to protect everybody and I'm going to protect them and nobody's going to mess with these parts.
Yes. I mean, it is Godfather. You know what I mean? It's you know, I don't know. That's my godfather. I don't know. It is, you're right. I see her behind this desk, the family, you think about the mob movie, right? It's I protect the family. You sleep with the fishes,
I feel
yeah.
now every time I'm doing parts work with the protector part, I'm just gonna visualize Taylor at the table. I protect the family.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one's one of my favorites. When you go on a walk and you just need to feel that, that's one for me that's will be on my playlist. Um it's such a I use this type of music sometimes to help myself access these parts of myself, and when you've been hurt or when you feel like somebody's starting to take advantage of you, these this will be a go-to for me of mm, mm-mm, get back in touch with that um part of myself. Okay. Are we ready to move on or do we have anything else for that one?
It was just one other thing I was just thinking that. How great of therapy homework would that be? Go listen to this song, when you're feeling this way and sit with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. That would be fun. Okay, so right after this song, we have Eldest Daughter, which is, what we've already kind of mentioned it. And for everyone listening, go on Instagram, probably YouTube as well, and you can see where Annalise and I listen to the song and kind of do like a reaction video to it. Um, but I don't think it's I do not I told you guys this in a voice memo earlier, like, it's not an accident, the order of this music, you know? And so we have Eldest Daughter right after Father Figure. So let's break it down a little bit.
Jessie, could you speak a little bit to like the orchestra part and the music with the harmony and how that kind of touches on the parts? I think that's really cool.
Yeah, so just when I was listening through it, the first part of the song is piano only and her voice only. Um, and to me, that's one that we talked about, that's like either her core self or maybe her protector, eldest daughter part talking. Don't know, but it's one part talking. And then to me, it's like I am explaining why I needed to be protected. So, everybody's so punk on the internet. Like, this is the artillery range that I'm in front of like every day. And so I have to, it's that theme of like public, there I have to put this protector up to protect myself from all this like hate that gets spewed at me. Um every single hot take is cold as ice. And I want to say too, for everybody listening who has teenagers, this is a great one to listen through with your teenager and break it down with them. Like I did it with my 14-year-old the other day. She was as receptive as a 14-year-old can be when you're giving them a TED talk. But I think like some things like landed in with her. This line of "I have been afflicted by a terminal uniqueness" is one of my favorite songs on the whole album. And when I think about like communicating things to our kids, there's so much pressure on them to fit some kind of mold. And there is, so when we hyperlink over to canceled, right? Like if you don't fit in a certain box, whether it be like with your thoughts or with how you look or with how you act or whatever, we are in such a cutthroat culture right now. There's this big veiled word of acceptance, but in reality, people don't walk that out, like we don't. We treat each other very poorly. And so everybody's been afflicted by a terminal uniqueness. But I love that play on words right there, like a terminal, like, disease of uniqueness, that afflicts us, you know? And I've been dying just from trying to be cool, like I'm this idea of like just trying to fit in instead of just freely being who I am. And I love how this, to me, it's this protector of, is like saying they're all at the table together, and they're saying like, and the protector is like, this is why I've done it, you know? Um, and then the chorus is like, I'm not this bad person, you know? Like this isn't the core of who I am. This is what I've had to be at times to protect, but this isn't like who I am. And so we have the whole first verse and first chorus with piano and one voice. And then in the second verse is when you hear the first strum of a guitar. And as we're going into this memory of when this part was formed, we get this exiled part of when I was 8 or 9. I was having so much fun and blah, 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 and then I fell off and broke my arm. And this protective part of me was formed. Pretty soon I learned cautious discretion. The first harmony line in the song is when your first crush crushes something kind. And I'm convinced that that is the protector and the exile singing together. And then I just think from there on, it's this beautiful, like, and it's this line. What's happening in the song is the beautiful life is shimmering the light back. And so it's all of these like onyx back to opalite. It's all of this like onyx stuff that's been in like onyx black night. There's now this light because of this like safety that she feels in her current life, that's shimmering the light back to all of these parts of herself that were exiled. And so she captures that musically in this song by adding in more musical instruments and more harmony lines. It's like we see the opalite happening like across this song. We see that like Onyx night going to opalite in this ballad, I think.
Yeah. And I think it's making me think too of when we talk about in therapy with trauma, we talk about trauma triggers, and the opposite of that is a glimmer, the language that we use, which is like she's seeing that in these shimmers. Or the glimmers, because you feel safety, you feel safe enough to take away that guard and let down that cautious discretion and be able to like take in the goodness. That's what a glimmer is. That opalite.
Gosh, that's so good. You got anything, Emily, that's coming up for you?
Yeah, I feel like that the line when your first crushes something kind. And it's like I think every kid has that moment like where again, like the innocence is kind of lost or like the truth, the harshness of reality is kind of unveiled. Whether it's, from a crush that rejects you or, it can be so much other things, but like just that kind of sadness. But again, I think she beautifully ties it back to now of like, again, there's resilience, there's strength that comes from those moments. Um, but yeah, that line stood out to me.
And I think that this song is beautifully telling the story of that theme of like all parts are welcome because it's like she realizes like that sadness and that part that formed in her. But then like we noticed yesterday when we were doing the video, like the bridge is kind of an inside out when an inside out one, when you have happy or joy and sadness watching like the memory reel together, and joy starts to notice sadness, like, and how important sadness was for Riley, you know? And so there's this kind of like, and it's interesting to me how it seems like in the bridge, like the room gets bigger with the music,
Oh yeah.
you know? And it's almost like, um, as they're watching that, they're noticing how important all of these parts are. Like they don't need to be exiled. Like they're part of this orchestra that when all parts can play fills up the room and makes the room bigger and more and opalite. So yeah, and, this is my favorite maybe of all time. So anything else on that one?
It's so good.
Okay.
And I think it's fun to just
Yeah.
talk about it after we talk about father figure too, because I think they just pair really well together. It's the
Yeah,
different parts.
totally. Yep. Yep. Um, okay. So the next one, I think is really good too. I don't have the title on here. What's the title called on the next one?
Ruin the friendship.
Yeah, Ruin the Friendship. Okay. So what comes up for you guys on this one?
I love this one. I think it's really sweet. And I think it kind of goes along a similar theme of like looking back and this vulnerability. And there's this part of her that's sort of wishing that she had taken the chance, and not been so protective, so afraid, and you think
Mhm.
about like it hyperlinks me back to Eldest Daughter when it says that first crush crushes something. Like, is she thinking about that? That's why she doesn't want to ruin the friendship. She doesn't want it to be crushed, right? But then now her older self is like, it's worth it. Just do it. You never know. And it's so sad at the end. She's just like, this friend, there's never that opportunity again, right? Because I mean, I assume what she's saying here is that like she's attended this funeral and didn't get to do that, which I think she talked about in the movie. It's sort of a compilation of several friends' stories. It's not necessarily just one person. But that like you just never know if you don't take the chance.
Yeah, it goes back to that theme you mentioned earlier, Emily, of, not being afraid to fail, I think.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I really like it ties into this of like better than regret it for all time, better than to ask it your all your life.
Mm,
So yeah, it's better to just say how you feel, even if it is vulnerable, it is scary. There's risk involved with that, but that's better than this feeling of regret. Um,
mhm.
that's such like a, I don't know the word for it, but it's such like a heavy, like regret is such a heavy feeling.
Yeah,
And I feel like
yeah.
middle school, high schoolers, like it's all about how others perceive
Yes.
that, like you're so focused on that that you're not focused on like the things that you really want to do or say. So I feel
Mhm.
like this has a really good messaging in it for that age group of
I
again
agree.
being
Go ahead.
as I say again of like being your true self and not being afraid to show that to others.
Yes, because, there is this, like, thing that happens in our brains in that time of life of, like, I gotta read the room before I make a move, and everything has to be calculated and perfect, and I gotta be accepted by other people, and I think she plays on that musically in this song. She does this really cool thing where she does, like, a six-note drop. Like, Your Smile, Miles, I'm not gonna sing it right, but, like, it's like she does it and it's when you listen to it, it gives me, like, a picture of tripping, like, like, physically, like, tripping over something, Um, and I feel like that's on purpose because when we aren't afraid to fail and when we go for it, when we shoot our shot, you know, a lot of times it's gonna look like, like it's gonna not look perfect on the outside, but we have to get over that presentation of it and just jump and do. Um, and so I loved how she just, again, like, just brilliant musically to tie in the theme of what she's saying with how she's singing it. And she does it all the time.
And you know what I love too, as y'all are talking about this, like when you think about it through an attachment lens, like as a parent, we are being that safety for your kids at this age to be able to fail and it's safe. Like there's that freedom to fail that Emily talked about in the other song, and that we are this like safe place. So, and then when we think about it in terms of like heart's work, like your core self, your wise self being safe, it's allowing you to fail, right? Like it's okay if you take the risk because even if you fail, like you're still loved, you're still safe and accepted.
And that's what builds that resiliency in you, like Emily's talking about, that we see all through this album. Like, it's not perfection that builds resiliency, like, it's failing and realizing, like, "Oh, okay, I can get back to good. I can do this again," Like, that's what builds the confidence within yourself is having those moments of, oh, okay, we're back up," you know? Um, and seeing that in that's what we talk about in parenting classes all the time is, like, your kids don't need a perfect parent. They need a parent who apologizes for what they do and who, like, names things in front of them. Man, I acted out of my anxiety this morning on the way to school. Like, I was stressed, and I am so sorry for how I, like, came across. Do you forgive me on that? Like, we're back to good. Like, that builds that security, um, repair.
It was making me think about attachment, the therapy relationship and secure attachment that we can build with clients and how like why we have such like a duty to create these safe places for clients because these are like stepping stones in their life of being able to have this secure attachment with a therapist and feel like they can have this space of like, again, I can be my true self. I can talk about things that I'm scared to talk about with everybody else. And they're hopefully going to listen and still accept me for who I am.
Mm, so good. So the next one is, I don't have the title. Oh, actually romantic. Um, so how was this for you guys? What did you get from this one?
Kind of love this one because I think it's her just sort of like making fun of someone who is giving her a really hard time, and not making fun in the sense of like, I think this part of her is like, "You know what? I'm not really that worried about this. Like, thank you for thinking of me so much." Which I don't know, there's something y'all are better with, middle schoolers and teenagers. I think there's something there to that too, to continue that conversation of, like, helping them realize, like, we all need help realizing, like, "Hey, it's okay. People are gonna say bad things about you," and that's different than, a relationship that needs repair, but being able to, like my mom used to say, like, "Let it roll off your back," you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me think I was telling a client the other day of like it's kind of like this thing of like kill them with kindness. Like if somebody says something mean to you, like if you come back with a compliment or, just letting it
Mhm.
go, like it really disarms people, I think. And especially that age group. Um, like sometimes if somebody's coming at you, again, they want that reaction. So if
Mhm.
you're kind of like, oh, like it's actually really kind that you're spending all this time thinking about me
Thank
and
you.
coming up with all these things to say about me. Um, yeah, I think that that is a really good life lesson.
I agree. I think it's like I feel like one of the realizations that I always want people to get to is that, just this concept of like, okay, that person's behavior is not about me. It's about
Yeah.
them. And so if we can get people to kinda understand and release that and it's holding a boundary really of like, there's this I don't know if it's a book or what it is, but I picked it up over the years, this concept. I saw it somewhere, so, um, it's kind of funny, but it helps my kids remember this, and it's like, don't let that, like, poot, like, fart, like, stick on you. So it's like
Mhm.
it's this image of when somebody is mean to you, I want you in your mind to envision them turning around and just like a skunk, like putting this cloud of green like at you. You know what I mean? And that has helped my little kids so much to be able to like externalize like when people are mean to them, you know? Because when they come to me and they're upset about it, the first thing I'll ask them is like, well, like, is it true? Like, if somebody called you mean, like, were you mean to them? Let's address that first. But if not, like, okay, so what's happening is you're letting this green gas like stick on you. Like, you know, let's not. Like, let's let that stuff float on into the distance. But that silly picture is something I talk about a lot with my kids, but it's this idea of like, you know, what is coming out of other people has to do with what's inside of them, you know? That thing stinks because of what that person ate for lunch, you know? Like, it has nothing to do with you. So I think this song is kind of it's that externalizing of like, this hate that's coming at me, like, I'm doing my thing over here. Like, I'm being creative. This now I'm speaking as Taylor. I'm being creative. I'm, like, living my life, and I honestly am not even like, you go live your life, like, go on. That's all I want, you know? Um, that's how this one comes off to me.
I think too, when I think about like parts work, dealing with difficult parts of other people, I think a big part of like that
Mm,
work therapy is realizing, oh, this is a part of them that is activated right now. And it's something that they have going on to work through. And those boundaries like can be loving, right? But to not internalize it as our own stuff.
that's so good, and that ties in what Emily's saying, like, that's how we can hold on kindness to other people is, my behavior is not the whole of who I am, and that person's behavior is not the whole of who they are. So good, guys. Y'all should go into therapy, like, as a career.
Good idea. Y'all should too. You
Yeah.
should be an English teacher.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on that one? Okay, wish list is next.
Okay, this might be I feel like I'm saying this about every song. This might be my favorite song. After I've listened multiple times, it might be one of my favorites because I think that vulnerability piece is just so there for her right now. It's like she just wants to be left alone and be happy. And,
Mhm,
the world has so many wants, but all she wants is like to be with him and settle down. And I think that that's really vulnerable for her because if you think about all of the heartbreak that she's been through in her life, to allow herself to like let her guard down, um, is kind of, I feel like I talk about this a lot with clients, but like when you've been hurt and you have relational trauma, to be able to have that vulnerability and to have done the work with your parts enough that those protectors can rest so that you can let somebody else in and just have happiness. I think that's beautiful. That's healing.
mhm. Yeah, so good. What you got, E? Anything on this one?
I guess the line that's standing out, like, I hope I get what I want because I know what I want.
Yeah.
I feel like this is kind of back, like, talking about, like, being goal oriented, of, like, really being confident in what you know you want in life. Um, and not being able to, again, like,
Mm,
pursue the things to get that. Um, whether it's, for some people, it's more like she's talking in here, like materialistic things. Um, or for her, it's just like having this true happiness, having a place that feels like home. And that sometimes it more matters about, yeah, the relationship, the people that you are able to build this life with. Um,
mhm,
and I think, again, when we're younger, we get so caught up in the materialistic things. Like, I want a phone or, this toy that everybody has. Um, but trying to get people to look bigger picture.
mhm. I love that, and I love that theme of confident in what I want. That hyperlinks me over to Life of a Showgirl at the end, where she's like, "No, this is what I want," you know? Um, that's good. Anything else on that one?
I just want to give a moment to the line, please God me bring me a best friend who I think is hot because I just I, I
So good. Let's just honor that line for a second.
yeah. Just
Yes.
right? Like
Mhm.
that's what marriage is.
Yeah. Yep. For sure. Like, true intimacy. Um, yeah. Yep. Um, I also love just if I could touch musically on this one for a second, like, how, um, in the chorus, I think it's cute, like, it's playful, like, her lyric lines are very playful, almost like there's one that makes me think of, like, a seesaw, you know? So it's like this idea of like, playfulness in the chorus, I think is really, really cool. That's the life she wants, is just a playful, relaxed life with a teeter totter, I think, what we're getting from this song. Okay. Are we ready for wood? All right. So you want me to go? Because I've got thoughts. I've been thinking about how we're going to talk about this one.
Yeah, you please go.
Okay. Okay. So first of all, I'll frame it musically first. So this is my musically, like, I think the most fun song on the album. And she's got Jackson 5 vibes. She's got, um, what's the guy that Superstition. Who's that guy? Come on. Motown. My brain is not working today. My mom has left this podcast 2 times because I have failed English and Motown in one episode. I'm so sorry, Mom. He's only one of the most famous people of all time. Okay, so
Stevie Wonder.
the song. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. Jeez. So we hear that through the song, right? And she even says, like, she talked on Fallon the other night how, this song was originally about superstitions and then they kind of went funny and crazy with it. But so it's got that like homage to like that time of music, right? Um, Here's what I'm going to say about it. Like, you cannot playfully celebrate like that. Like, we're talking about a male appendage right here. Like, this can't be playfully celebrated like this unless there is like true emotional intimacy, you know? Like, she's chosen this like musically fun, like innocent, like, you know, fun thing because of the emotional safety that she's experiencing in her life, you know? That's why this can be a playful song. And listen, we have another song about a male appendage that we've already kind of gone through, right? And so we have, I mean, we have thematically a male appendage like mentioned in two different lights, right? But true intimacy is emotional safety, you know? And I think she's gotten a little bit of flack for this song, but I mean, uh, like I give you Exhibit A, Song of Solomon, for like celebrating body parts. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. To me, this is one of my favorite songs like on the album. Um, and because of like the boppiness of it, you know? Um, but that's what I've thought all along with this. I'm like, I mean, this part of her life like can be celebrated because of the emotional intimacy that she's and safety that she feels. To me, I read this as like a securely attached relationship, you know? And he said on his brother was making fun of him on their podcast, and um, he brought this up about this song or whatever. And what he said I thought was so good. He was like, I love that girl. She can talk about anything she wants about me, you know? So, okay. So, how about y'all for this one?
Love no, go ahead, Emily. I feel like you go ahead.
No, no, you go ahead.
I think that that is, like, really difficult um, to pinpoint, and, like, the fact that we're talking about it in terms of, like, parts language, like, this is a part of her that feels like there is safety and there's intimacy. The other thing I was gonna say too is I saw a video that I thought was really helpful of Dr. Becky, who wrote Good Inside. It talks about, "What do I do when my kids are talking about these lyrics and they don't understand and they come to me?" And she said, "You have a couple of options. You could ignore it, or you could talk with them about it." And, um, if you ignore it, like, they've already heard it, and you have an opportunity to actually talk with them about these lyrics that they've heard, and they're coming to you, like, you're a safe place for them to come to. Like, I was thinking about when we were talking about that freedom to fail, like, they are asking you. So ways to be able to, like, describe it to your kids, and y'all should go watch that video if you're interested in this, where she talks about, like, you could, sort of explain, like, "Okay, well, there's this is her adult boyfriend, and this is what she's talking about." Or you can choose, like, the layers of which you explain it to your kids, but it's actually, like, a cool opportunity to be able to talk to them about it. And a lot of the stuff that we were listening to when we grew up was, like, also, like, very explicit, and no one was talking,
Gosh.
or maybe they were, like,
I mean, I go back now and I listen to some of the stuff I listened to with mom ears, and I'm just like, I cannot believe, but all that stuff went over my head when I was little. I had no idea. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think I think she's getting flack like this isn't like a tasteful song or whatever, but like it doesn't offend me in the least because of like I feel like there's so much like relational security, that it's not coming off as offensive to me, you know? Um okay. So Canceled is next. I love this song so much. What comes up for you guys with this one? You want me to start? Okay.
Yeah.
So I love, like I said before, like the gothic, like tone to this. Like it's like you vilified me, so we're gonna play on that theme. When I'm canceled, I'm the villain, and so let's go with that. Um, she talked about this a little bit in the movie that she put out, but like this cancel culture is everywhere, you know, and it's in small towns, it's in churches, it's in like big cities, it's in what she's dealing with being in the public, it's in eighth grade classrooms, it's everywhere. And so just this idea of like, okay, like when people don't agree with certain things, we have this culture now where we vilify um, people who don't agree with us. And I love the play on that in this song, you know? Um, and it's like, I know who my friends are. They're the ones who they get it. They understand this type of thing. Um, so I love it. I love some of the lines in there. Like she's just like picking apart culture, you know? Um, I mean, I love her song, about, If I Was a Man from one of her previous albums. And then she's got this line in here, like, "Did you girl boss too close to the sun?" I love it. "You're wicked. You had too much fun." You know?
Yeah, I love it, and I think it's interesting because people have taken a lot of issue. I'm on, the Taylor Swift TikTok where every person who has an issue with any one of these songs comes up and talks about it. And I think one thing that's like so interesting is people trying to put her in a box, right? But I think this is very much what she's like singing about, right? Is that like she is singing right now, "Did you make a joke only a man could?" And the song before was she was celebrating new heights of manhood. That's like her lyric, you know? So it's like she's not just A or just B. And I think in a culture that's so polarized, or else you're canceled for being one of those things, that there's some beauty to saying like she has all of these different parts to her, you know?
Yeah, for me, like I take out a bit, um, kind of like this theme with like having true friends, like that will stand by you no matter what. Um, and then I think it was like about having matching scars. Like a lot of times, I think our friends go through similar things, or we see something in them, that's in ourselves. And again, I think a good message that I always tell like younger people is like it's not about the number of friends, it's the quality, and that they will stand by you no matter what. And I think some of the lines, like, jokes only a man could and thing, like I think there's some play here on like misogyny. And kind of going back to Wood, like it's like girls are not allowed, women are not allowed to like make vulgar jokes. They're not allowed to like, um, so I think there's a little bit that kind of runs, it's kind of in father figure too, like it kind of runs through as well.
Yeah, I think maybe we have some commentary on misogyny all the way through now that you're mentioning it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's like the critics of Wood. It's like, okay, well, see the next song where we say you're canceling me because I'm making a joke only a man can make.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You're exactly
And
right.
again, like the irony, it's like think about
Yes.
male artists. How much are they talking about, women's anatomy and appendages? And it's not like they get called, you know.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
We ride at dawn, Taylor.
Yes. Oh, so good. Okay. Yeah, I love this one. I think this is such a good one. All right. Anything else on that one? Okay. Okay. I, I mean, here's another one that's like a play on words and how it's used, right? Again, honey. Um, and it hyperlinks me back to what we were saying with father figure, how like I protect the family was used in a manipulative way. And then when she flips it, she uses it like, no, I protect the family, you know? And then we've got here this idea of this word, these pet names or whatever being used um, in a misogynistic or like degrading way. Um, but when they're used like in a loving relationship, you know, um, it's a beautiful thing, which takes me back to Wood because it's like that same idea of, like, that song outside of the context of a safe relationship, it wouldn't hold the value that it does, you can't celebrate that truly, and so this song to me is kind of that same idea of a celebration of security, um, you know, and that's one thing I notice about, like, if you watch them talk about each other, that mutual celebration of each other, you know, is I saw this reel the other day where it was like, "Oh, look at this guy with all his cool clothes getting out of the car," like, he had, like, 3 different outfits on or something, and then you open up the comments, and there are, like, all these women commenting, and they're like, "What makes this guy handsome is the way he's smiling at this girl that's taking the video of him." Like, it has nothing to do with anything else besides, like, he sees the object of his affection who is taking the video, and he lights up, you know? And so, to me, that's what this song is all about. It's like, these words are safe to be used because the person who is using them lights up when he sees her, you know?
And I think that's a through line in the whole album because I think that takes me back to Eldest Daughter, and she even talks about this when she talks about the song that finding that person that you feel safe enough to be vulnerable with, to be yourself with, that these things can only be true if you feel safe. But you know what that makes me think of is in order to have that, you also have to have an internal sense of safety. Because if
Mhm,
you haven't done that work, you meet someone who's safe and that feels scary, right? Like you don't know what to do with that. And so, yes, she feels safe with him, but it's also this parts work that we've been talking about that she has to have that internalized sense of safety to be vulnerable with him and actually trust.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I feel like it's clear, like, in these songs and in interviews that I think what makes him a wonderful partner is that he's so confident, and he's kind of, I think, a good example for men of how to be, I'm blanking on the word, like, masculine in a, like, gentle, loving way, and
mhm,
that can still be, like, masculine in its own right.
mhm,
Like, to be confident enough of, like, "Oh, she can write songs about me or write songs about, like, my male appendage, and I'm okay with that, like, that's not gonna make
mhm,
me upset," or I can watch her, like, be a superstar and, like, be in awe. I think there's, um like, they're finding ways not to praise me, but you say it like you're in awe of me. It's like
yes,
everybody wants that, like, you wanna have a partner that is in awe of you and you can be in awe of them, and again, that creates this, like, you can just feel it in the whole album, like we've been saying, security and warmth and confidence.
yeah, so good, and you guys are right that, like, you can't give that to somebody else unless you truly feel it inside, you know? Like, if you're not secure, and I think there's this, like, historical, like, memo that maybe generation I'm just thinking about, like, maybe memos men get of, like, "Well, you can't say too many nice things and puff them up too much," kinda thing. We gotta, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
withhold that, kinda thing, and it's just that needs to be, like, shattered, like, and too many people, I think, that type of calling out of, like, what we see in each other has not been the habit that it should be, um, because it does build so much security, like, in the person and in the relationship when we're just freely, like, giving that, we're not withholding that type of stuff from each other. Um, so that's my favorite line too, and that one gets my heart every time. Yeah, yeah. Um, okay, anything else on that one?
I just was gonna say I really like what you said, Emily, about like an example of also for a man, like that there's masculinity, but also he's so proud of her too. And I think, Taylor gets a lot of flack for like putting men down, but, like, we're seeing this softness of her where she's, like, celebrating this man, and they have this comfort in celebrating each other and loving one another. They're not threatened by the other person or about how society is gonna view that.
Mm, so good.
No, I was gonna quick say that just that makes me think of a line, I can't remember which one it's in, of um, like, "Under bright lights, like, others withered away, and you bloomed." Like, he's able to take all of that in stride and, like, instead of feeling like less than, he's able to bloom.
Yeah. So we have this internal play on his, like, masculinity in one song, but then we have a true picture of, like, his masculinity and security here in this song, I think, like a deeper picture, you know? She's kind of, I think, making fun of what society would say is masculine, and then really we're getting a couple tracks later, like, that picture of the true masculinity and security. Yeah, so good. Okay, last one, Life of a Showgirl, title track. Um, what comes up for this one with you guys? I love this one so much. You want me to jump?
Yeah.
This one to me speaks to my competitive part immediately. Like, it's easy for me to access. And I was telling Annalise before we jumped on the call, like, this one is the only song I've been able to get Corey, my husband, to like really dissect with me. He's just, it's not his bag. But um, as soon as I started talking to him about this one, he can easily access that competitive part of himself too. And we were in it quick to talk about it. Um, and yeah, this is the song of like, tell me I can't do something, you know? And I love how that play on words of like, you know, in the first chorus, we've got Kitty saying, thank you for the lovely bouquet, or sweet as a peach, but you don't know the life of a showgirl, pat on the head, you know, go about your merry way. And then after the bridge, which I love, and it is a throwback to Greatest Showman, to that like bar scene where the older guy is like getting the younger guy to go into business. It's a play on that musically. Um, but right after that, when she's like saying, okay, I'll take all these pearls of wisdom. Thank you. And then she's like, you don't know the ice. You want to take a skate on the ice inside my veins. Like, I love that little strong line. And then when she sings the verse at the end, I love that music break too. She says, so I say, then you hear that strum of the guitar, which is so quintessential Taylor, I think. And then she says, thank you for the lovely bouquet. Like, thank you, Kitty, for like thinking, and everyone along the way who told me that I was too soft to do this. You don't actually know the life of a showgirl. So there's like this playback that I think is like super strong in the end.
So cool. And I think it's really wrapping up what the whole album is about too. We see both her like softness and her strength in all of these songs. Like, yes, there's a softness and a vulnerability that she has, but that she's like, don't think for a minute that means that I'm not tough, because I am.
Mhm.
And actually, I'm using this softness to continue to operate in this world.
Mm. The strength to be able to continue to access the vulnerability to write and to put yourself out there is a different kind of strength.
Yeah, I feel like how the music is arranged, like you were saying, it does remind me of like Greatest Showman, but it does like feel like this culmination and like a perfect way to end the album. Um, like her being on stage and just like the power in that. It was interesting. I was listening one of the interviews she was talking about like why she chose Sabrina to be on it with her, and it was kind of explaining like you guys were saying like how she has like this kind of innocence or like gentleness to her, kindness, but she's also able to let like the negativity just like brush off her back. And
Mhm.
that's kind of what makes her also a showgirl in this generation.
Mhm. Mm. Mhm. It's a lot there, Emily. That's good. That was good. That's really good. Um, okay. Anything else, like, just as we're, like, landing the plane here?
I'm just thinking still about the Sabrina thing because like her whole thing is like she's like I'm going to give people what they want, but it's in a way that's almost satirical of like she uses the feedback that she gets and sort of like makes music off of it. And I think there's a little bit of Taylor doing that here of like I do think there's so much depth to it. Like, I do think she's genuinely like, this album is a big part of her heart, but I think she's also using the things that people say about her as fuel, as that strength to keep reaching and being vulnerable.
So good. Well, this was a lot of fun.
Yes. I love this.
Yeah. I think we could say thank you, Taylor, for putting your puzzle out for us to play with.
Taylor. If you're
Mhm.
listening, we love you, Taylor.
Yeah.
All right.